Hello, my name is Orlagh and I run the Reading Room Bookshop, and you're very welcome here this evening. For Wild Words, I have chosen to read Oasis by Eilis Barrett. I've chosen this book for two reasons. The first one being is that Eilis will be here with us in August for the festival. And Eilis is a first-time author at the age of 16. I read that she wanted to be, one of her ambitions was to be an author by the time she was 30. I think she has 14 years on that now. And the second reason why I chose this book is because it's a beautiful object. And I just want to show you exactly how that looks. And I think that's beautiful because how a book looks matters. Oasis is a book set in the future. It's a dystopian novel about a virus eradicating mankind. And I'm just going to read you a short extract from the prologue. I have three memories of that day. Three memories of a life before reality, of a life before desperation, before fear. I have three memories of the day everything changed. One, I remember it like this. I'm 7 years old and trapped in a white dress inside the school auditorium for the quarterly selection, where 6 faces appear on a huge screen at the front of the room. The Oasis president is talking on a recording in the background. He's dressed all in blue. The lights around him so harsh he's almost painful to look at. He's talking about sacrifice, about how these 6 faces could be the 6 faces of people who are going to save our world, who are going to be the tool by which Oasis find the cure. But I didn't care about the cure back then. I didn't need to. No one in the inner sector did, and I was more concerned with the tightness of my dress than the sacrifice anybody else was making. 2. I remembered being pulled out of the auditorium by a tall female officer sent to bring me to my testing. My teachers had been explaining it for years. At some point during every child's 7th year, they are taken to an off-campus facility to be tested for the X gene, the thing everybody feared. I didn't understand back then what that actually meant. I remember I wasn't scared. My parents were going to be at the facility. The officer told me as we drove down the elegant streets. I didn't listen to her. I didn't care what she was saying. Instead, I watched the trees pass by, one at each corner, all of them the same colour, the same size, trimmed and beautiful and perfect. We passed my house, and I pressed my nose to the glass of the window. It looks exactly the same as the other ones, but I've always thought it was the prettiest. The walls seem to be just a little bit whiter, the garden just a little bit nicer. We passed one of the billboards, the Oasis president's face inhumanly large on the enormous screen, and I smiled. I liked the OP. He had a slow, deep voice that made me feel calm, and blue eyes that looked like you could trust him with anything. The officer's car pulled up on the side of the street, and she escorted me into the huge building with lots of windows and the Oasis motto printed above the door. Without order, there can be no prosperity. Without justice, there is no peace. I didn't even know what the second principle of Oasis meant, prosperity, but I liked the way it sounded. I liked the way the words rose and fell throughout the sentence, the way everybody could say it, but everybody said it differently. My parents were at the reception desk, and I went to them quietly. I didn't say anything, instead keeping my eyes trained on the nurse they were looking at. She was small and her hair was white blonde, and I didn't like her. Her smile was too wide, her teeth were too big for her small face, and she looked like she was pretending not to be angry. She led us into a small room with white walls, urging me to sit up on the top of the steel table. From a drawer in the corner of the room, she pulled out an object no longer than her hand, and I saw a tiny needle at the end as she came towards me, and I fidgeted slightly, afraid of its point. The nurse smiled again, and my parents put their hands on my shoulders, to comfort me or to hold me down, I couldn't tell. The pain only lasted a moment, and I didn't make a sound. I glanced up at my parents, their faces stern as they watched the nurse carefully. I turned towards her and I watched as she became very still. All of a sudden the weight on my shoulders was gone. She was saying something I couldn't quite hear over the sound my mother was making. I heard the words X-gene and outer sector and cure before my mother ran away. She moved towards the door so fast I could barely turn around before she was gone, and my father followed her. And I tried to jump from the table, but the nurse had hit a button on the wall, and suddenly there were men in white suits and giant masks, and they looked like aliens, and my heart was beating so rapidly, and I tried to shout for my parents, but I was being picked up, and I kicked, and I screamed, but it didn't matter. With a drop of blood and the beep of a test, they had discovered something integrally broken inside me, something so twisted, something so wrong, that they couldn't even look at me. And I knew, as I was being pulled away, in the way that you believe things as a child, wholeheartedly, undoubtedly, heartbreakingly, that nothing would ever be the same again.